This is the Livin' It podcast, featuring the CEO of the Richmond Flying Squirrels, Todd Parnell. After 30-plus years in minor league baseball, he knows a few things.
Remember, I'm a product of the North Carolina public school system, Anthony. We're 48th in the country, but we won't even talk about that.
And a few people.
It's not name-dropping if you actually know the person. Like I was telling Tiger Woods the other day that I don't think it's name-dropping.
Now he's telling all, unfiltered.
I used to go absolutely ape.
From the Reckless Kelly tour bus to the Sandbridge Bar and NASCAR tailgates.
1, 2, Earnhardt 4.
He's always living it. Here's the host of the Livin' It podcast, Anthony Opperman.
Hello, Squirrels Nation, Podcast Nation. Welcome back. We are rocking and rolling here on the Livin' It podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Opperman, along with the one and only Todd Parnell, the CEO of the Richmond Flying Squirrels. We are talking Livin' It, and today, big guy, we're talking Parney.
Did I just yawn?
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know.
Snap out of it.
Excuse me, I'm coughing. Well, what a great episode this turned into. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
We made episode 3, so that's probably upset.
Yeah, I don't know where we set. I think the line was set right at 3. So it's at the very least it's a push.
3.5. You got to be careful of the hook at all times. The hook will get you every single time.
So in this episode of the Livin' It podcast, we're going to talk about becoming Parney. Last episode we talked about your pants and Parney pants, and I think it goes without saying that Parney pants have very much not only become a part of the Flying Squirrels brand, but become a part of the Parney brand. But I think this is going to give us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about what is the Parney brand. And I think like maybe some people were surprised last episode to learn that you didn't always wear Parney pants and that there was a time you wore khakis to Flying Squirrels games.
But then John Harbaugh ruined it for everybody, and now nobody can wear khakis anymore.
I think people are going to be surprised, and we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off right now to learn that your name isn't actually Parney. And some people may know that, you go by Todd Parnell, but Todd ain't even it. All right? So if you don't mind, big guy.
You're not going to make me do this, are you?
I think it's important. I mean, look, we're talking about being honest and transparent. We set the bar high right out of the gate that we're going to be raw and real and authentic. And I think the only way for us to truly be real, raw, and authentic is for people to know what the actual name on your birth certificate is.
All right. Well, I would only do this for you because I've always hated my first name. Always. And to this day, 54 years later plus, I have some vengeance towards my parents for naming me this. And it's not a bad name. It's not a bad name. It's not like some of our friends' first names, Tom White. But my birth certificate on June 16th, 1966, 8 pounds, 13 ounces, big feller, Eric Todd Parnell. Eric Todd Parnell. So if I can go just a little bit deeper, my parents wanted to name me Todd, and then they didn't like it as a first name. So they tried to put all kinds of other names in the middle, Todd whatever Parnell, Todd whatever Parnell. Nothing fit. So they were going to just name me Todd Parnell, which with no middle name, which would have been perfectly fine. But instead, they threw in the first name, Eric Todd Parnell.
Was that after anybody?
No. My Aunt Janice, God rest her soul, she's passed away. My Aunt Janice said to my parents, well, Eric's a pretty name, and Eric Todd Parnell flows. 2 problems with that, Anthony. Number 1, from kindergarten on, every first day of school, they would say, Eric Parnell, and I refused to move. I refused to stand up. My name was not Eric. I did not respond to Eric. My name was Todd back in those days. So that was a problem, to the point where my mom had to start calling the school ahead of school starting and saying, don't call him Eric or he's not going to answer you. You need to call him Todd. Second, the initials Eric Todd Parnell are E.T. So when that stinking movie E.T. came out, everybody wanted to say, E.T., go home, E.T., go home. So there was a couple of issues with that, but I'm just happy with Parney. And Parney, that if they just call me Parney, I don't need a last name, I don't need a first name, I don't need a middle name, just call me Parney, and I'm happy with that.
So since you were open and honest enough to share with everyone what that name is, I think we're going to establish a ground rule because we're all about establishing ground rules in baseball.
Yeah,
Important in baseball.
And in my therapy sessions.
But heretofore, we were honest with everybody about this. It's Parney.
Yeah.
It's Parney. Don't try any funny business.
Yeah.
And that includes.
Don't think you're joking if you go, well, hello, Eric, because you're not joking.
No, he will not answer you. And even if you're high up in the Major League Baseball offices and you call and refer to him as that, he won't answer you.
That's right. I don't remember that happening, but I'm sure it happened if you bring it up.
I do think I remember you telling me that Peter Woodfork referred to you as Eric, and you did not answer him.
He did, yeah. He said somebody. Peter Woodfork's a great guy, by the way, and our fans will get to know him a lot better because he's actually in charge of the minor leagues now on behalf of Major League Baseball. And the first time we ever talked, he said, "What's your real name?" And your first name, and I told him, and then. The next time he called me, I answered the phone, and he goes, "Hey, Parney." I go, "Oh, you didn't call me Eric. I thought you were going to call me Eric." He goes, "No, somebody told me you will never return my phone calls if I called you that." So, but he's doing a great job, and we're looking forward to working with him for it. That's a true story. I'm glad you reminded me. You're so good at your job, you're reminding me of stuff I don't even remember anymore. That's great.
Well, fortunately, big guy, we spent a lot of time together, and that office is just
fortunate.
down the hall.
It is fortunate.
So when did you start going by Parney? I think that begs that question.
You know what I just thought of? You should take notes, and then after I'm gone, write a book entitled Down the Hall about all the crazy stuff you've heard of down the hallway from me, because you've probably got a list a mile long.
Well, if I start taking notes of all that, I'm not going to get any work done, big guy.
All right, so I'm sorry. Back to the question. Shiny new object. What was the question again, sir?
When did people start calling you Parney?
Well, that's a great question, right? So my cousin Alan and I were like brothers growing up, and he calls himself the original Parney, or OP, because he was born in February and I was born in June. That's how close we were in age. But I don't remember people calling me Parney until college. It might have happened in high school, but college, I remember people calling me Parney a lot. And then certainly when I started in baseball, that was just a nickname. You know how baseball is, Ops. Everybody's got a nickname. In fact, our nicknames are so prevalent that you and I jokingly call each other Anthony and Todd because everybody's so different. You know, everybody else calls us Oppo and Parney. So I think it was in college, but it certainly got some headway when Chuck Domino hired me in Reading in December of 1989.
So would you say that timing in Reading was also when like Parney started to become a thing? Like there was this like persona that started to build around Parney, or did that even date back to college a little bit?
I've always been out there. You know, I've always been a little bit, just a fun-loving person and just someone who loved to live life in the express lane. And so that's always existed. I mean, always, like my whole entire life. But Reading was definitely the foundation of that. And, Chuck Domino obviously had and has a lot to do with that throughout the years, including here in Richmond. He did because in the Reading days, he pushed me out front. He wanted to be he wanted to be in the back room counting money. You've seen it before.
Yeah.
Like Chucky wanted to count the money, and he wanted me to go out there and make the money so he could count the money.
Nobody runs a money room like Chuck Domino.
No, not a one person. And so that's kind of when it happened. He bought me a red sequin jacket that I would wear on the field. And that was all part of the shtick. That was the first, shall we say, endeavor into crazy clothes at the professional level, and then it just kind of grew from there. And Parney was a little bit more of a fun-loving name than Todd, right? And in the baseball world, it just caught on, and it grew and grew everywhere we went.
So your first GM job, as we talked about in episode 1, was in Kannapolis. When you went down there, I mean, because obviously over time, people in Reading began to know you as Parney and knew what that meant, what came with that, the red sequin jacket, the big personality, all the stuff on the field. What was the reaction to that when you got to Kannapolis? And now this is the first time professionally you're Parney, but you're in a whole new place.
Well, not only am I in a whole new place, but it's my first GM job. And on top of all that, all my aunts and uncles, my parents didn't at the time, but all my aunts and uncles lived 15 miles down the road and knew me as Todd, right? So there was a time period where if my Aunt Shirley, who I adore, was at the ballpark and she called me Todd, but somebody else is calling me Parney at the same time, I answered. I'm at a ballpark. I instinctively answered to Parney, and as I admitted in episode 1, it got so bad or good if you're a brand expert, but I would answer to Parney and not Dad, something that I'm not proud of and something that has changed today because I want my kids to call me Dad and not Parney because they're the most important things. But yeah, that's Kannapolis, and then of course. After that, and Altoona is really where it became like the one name thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't even need to put Parnell on anything. And to this day, here in Richmond, a lot of people don't know my last name is Parnell. So it's been fun. It's something that I like, but again, it's something. It's an easily yellable name. Even like today, I mentioned. I think I mentioned to you that when I was at a meeting with Eddie Mack today and my buddy Sam Young. When I was leaving, somebody yelled "Parney" across the restaurant, and I whip around like it's almost like a shock collar at this point, and just something that I react to. But it's I love it. It's great. It's exhausting sometimes, but I wouldn't want to be anybody else. It's pretty cool to be at my age and legitimately say you wouldn't want to trade lives with anybody. I'd like to trade out of this pandemic, but I wouldn't want to trade lives with anybody, and that's pretty cool.
So there are a lot of people who call you Parney. Who still calls you Todd?
Well, that's a really short list. Eddie Mack.
Yep, Ed McLaughlin, the athletic director at VCU.
Eddie Mack calls me Todd, and I like it. And you call me Todd. If I say a curse word, my mother calls me Todd.
So she calls you Todd a lot.
If it's really a bad curse word, she calls me Eric Todd.
Oh,
then you know. But that's I can't think of many other ones. And there's some. Well, Brendan Porter, our COO, and one of as you know and as you are one of my best friends in the world. He calls me Todd, but that's because his son calls me Todd.
His youngest son Hudson,
and they're living down in Alabama. Everybody And when Brendan calls me, he'll put Hudson on the phone, and Hudson will say, "Hey, Todd," really loud. And it's like therapeutic for me now. Like they call me he'll say, "Have you had a bad day?" "Yeah, go get Hudson." And he'll call Hudson, and Hudson will say, "Hey, Todd," in that Alabama accent.
And I've actually had the opportunity to be at Brendan's house to witness the other end of that when Huddy calls you and says, "Hey, Todd." It's absolutely hysterical. Hysterical.
But I think, honestly, that's part of why I love this job so much is like we are family, right? And the connectivity that we have with each other's kids. Like my kids call all you guys funkles, fake uncles, right? And so I think, to see now other people's families growing up like that, and I'm the old guy now, that's still pretty cool. But Huddy calls me Todd. But he turns it into like a 3-syllable word, which is pretty incredible.
So what about sisters or anything? Do they refer to you as Todd? Do they call you Parney?
My sister Joy calls me Parney for sure.
Okay.
My sister Nancy, I don't even think she calls me anything, honestly.
Does she call you?
No, she calls me. No, we're close. I'm teasing. No, my parents always say I was the oldest, Nancy's the middle child, and then Joy's the third. My mom always says, if I wasn't there, I would have thought like that he wasn't mine. Because I'm so different than everybody else. Like she would have thought that the Presbyterian Hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina, might have messed up somewhere along the line. But no, I think Nancy might call me Todd. I don't remember, but everybody calls me Parney. Some of my cousins still have my cousin Jane. She might call me Todd, but even in North Carolina now, because they all followed my career, right? They listen to our games and they hear the broadcasters calling me Parney on the radio and whatever, and so they just know that that's what my name is now. And I sign all my cards, like Christmas cards and all that. And when Tanya and I send flowers to my mom or my Aunt Shirley or my cousin Jane or whoever it might be, it's Parney and Tanya, Lindsay, Sammy, Madison, and of course, don't forget Malibu. That's our ferocious dog at home for you guys that don't know.
And she loves you, by the way. Absolutely loves you. So I guess you kind of answered this question. I was curious about dropping the Todd Parnell part, because there was a point, I think, even like when we first got to Richmond, right? Like as you're introducing yourself to the market, it was Todd Parnell, right? And then the Todd and the Parnell just went away and it just became Parney.
Yeah, I think my business cards now just say Parney, right?
They do. Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember when that happened, honestly. Yeah. Maybe it's because so many people yelled "Party" from a bar somewhere, But it's cool. A lot of people are like, well, it's like Pele or Sting or Madonna. That's pretty hefty company, right? But again, it's kind of like last episode when we were talking about the pants. The name's even something that people have fun with, I think. So I don't care. As long as people are having fun, they can have fun with my name. They can have fun with my pants. They can have fun with anything they want to have fun with. It's fine by me. But it's definitely like I was laughing. The other week, Tanya and I were watching TV, and somehow I popped up on CBS 6, and it just said Parney. And Tanya's like, wow, they don't even put your last name on there anymore, So it's definitely something that's grown and something that's just real grateful for, honestly. If you can be grateful for your name, for your nickname, I'm grateful for my nickname.
So there are still times, believe it or not, that you go out in the market here in Richmond and people meet you for the first time. I'm thinking about all those trips we make down the road to Chicken Fiesta, and when they ask, what's the name for the order? And you say, Parney.
And they say, Barney? And then I say, no, I'm not a big purple dinosaur. Parney, like one letter away from party. And then that's usually when people get it. Like when I say like party, one letter away from party, Parney. And then that's when they get, you throw party in there, everybody's up for a party, right? But yeah, Barney, I get Barney all the time. As a matter of fact, our old friend, if Domino ever listens to this podcast, our old friend Ducky Turner.
Ducky. Yeah.
To this day, thinks I'm Barney.
You can't.
At Barney. He's at Barney. He's something. Like he knows my name's Parney, but he just calls me Barney.
That's a very Ducky Turner thing to do, by the way.
Yes, it was.
So do you feel like you get any like different looks from people like Parney? What's a Parney?
Well, keep in mind, it's a weird name, and I got weird pants on, so heck yeah. I still haven't cursed. Heck yeah.
You're doing very well.
I get weird looks. Of course I get weird looks, but that's all part of it, right? Like that's part of the fun in it. Like everybody just needs to relax. Like I got a weird name and I wear weird pants. Okay? We're going to have some weird fun then. Like it's going to be a good time. Like we're going to laugh together. We're going to smile together. We're going to live it together. And that's all part of it. Like it's probably, to some people, it's probably silly that they see a podcast called Livin It and episode 2 is about pants and episode 3 is about a nickname. But they all interweave into the whole thing. And I won't call it a scientific process, but it's almost like that.
I mean, I definitely think it's something that you could have a lecture about in a marketing class in college in terms of like building this brand and, the notion of We talked about building the Flying Squirrels brand a little bit in the first episode. We'll talk about it more in a future episode. But, certainly all of this stuff with the pants and the nickname Parney has been about building, your personal brand. And that really was such a big part of building the Flying Squirrels brand, especially that first year. I remember the conversations that first year. We're going to Parneyize Richmond. What did that mean to Parneyize Richmond?
You know what that meant.
Well, I know, but
it meant a lot of 3 a.m.s, a lot of pizza at the pizza place, and a lot of early mornings with a bottle of aspirin. That's what that meant. No, it's just the whole thing is about living, and it's about having fun. Parneyizing Richmond meant we're going to get out and we're going to meet people and we're going to spread fun, spread cheer. Like I joke about like drinking, but it's not all about that. It's not even nearly all about that. That's just a side piece of it. Some would say an important side piece, but it's a side piece. But it's about being out, being visible, being accessible, and mostly just being fun and having fun with people and living life. And so that's what Parneyizing meant. I remember one night we were going at it pretty hard in here, right in this room, working our rear ends off. Getting ready, we did 5.5 months of work. We did 18 months of work in 5.5 months. Like we got here in September, October, and we had a game in April. Most teams, when they're building up a brand, they're doing it over a 16, 18, 24-month period. We did all that in 5 months and change. I just remember one night I was exhausted and I went back to my apartment and I put on pajamas or something and I'm sitting there watching Jeopardy or whatever. And Domino called me. He's like, "Where you at?" I won't tell you the rest of the stuff he said. He said, "Where you at?" I said, "I'm in my room." And he's like, "We didn't bring you here to stay in your apartment. We brought you here to Parneyize the community. You better get out. Get out there right now." So I put my clothes back on, and next thing you know, I was singing karaoke wherever we were, and we were out having a good time and meeting tons of people. But think about that question you just asked me, and then You were here and you lived it with us, and we're a big part of it. How many friends do we have to this day that we met? Jack Louderback is a great example. I met Jack Louderback. He was bartending at Cha-Cha's, and me and Tommy White went in there on a Sunday afternoon. And they were playing big hair music, and then I did an air guitar with my shirt off on the bar at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And then the next day, Jack puts it out on whatever the social media was in 2010. Man, the guy running the new baseball team, he was shirtless on my bar. Laser came into my office. "Big guy, we might have a problem with some of your behavior yesterday." But that's all part of it, right? And that's how you build the relationships. And again, it doesn't have to be in bars. It could be wherever you go. But it's about being out there and being accessible and connecting with people and having fun. Like, we just don't have enough fun anymore. Like, part of it, living it too, Anthony, is just not taking yourself seriously. I mean, I take my job seriously, very seriously, and you know that. But I don't take myself seriously. I mean, I think I'm a yuck up. I just say yucky yuck. I just made that word up, by the way.
I mean, it works. Yeah. We'll add it to the lexicon here.
Yeah, there you go. I have no idea what lexicon means. Eddie Mack, can you tell me what lexicon means, please? I need help, Eddie Mack. Mayday, mayday.
Oh my goodness, big guy. As usual, so much to unpack there, and I'm still stuck at shirtless on a bar on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock
doing air guitar to the big hair bands. Ask Jack Louderback about it. He still brings it up all the time. That's like 13 years ago. Now, if I took my shirt off at a bar now, they would probably unpolitely ask me to leave. So,
well, okay. Along those lines, though, we talked about this. In the first episode, how has Livin' It evolved? How has this notion of Parney evolved and Parneyizing things evolved? Because year one, it very much was, going out and socializing in downtown Richmond at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, usually involving some drinks and perhaps some big hair music, and is shirtless on top of a bar. I can't even say it with a straight face. I can't, no. how the heck did we get through that first year? That's a whole other episode.
That should be a whole other
Yeah,
episode.
it really should.
We
How
should
did
do
we
like
get
guest interviews. I don't know
really
if you can do
should.
that podcast, but yeah, that first year. Whew.
Yep. But how has being Parney changed over the years?
Well, work. Like I think about this sometimes. Like, there's a lot of days, and you know this because you're right down the hall. Like, I'll have 10, 11, 12, 13 meetings or calls in a day. Then I think back, like I used to always go out in public for lunch, and we'd go to happy hours and stuff like that, and I just don't have the time for that anymore, right? And so I guess the longer you're in a place, the more people want to touch that in a business way, right? And the certainly with Montgomery, the responsibilities have grown. So there's probably not as much playtime, which was still blurred into work time. And I'm older, like primetime Deion Sanders isn't all that the public thinks he is either, right? People will probably, and I said we were going to be real on this podcast, so here's today's tidbit of information that you wouldn't think. Because I am the way that I am, people think that I'm out till midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. If you get me in January, February, March, maybe not March, January, February, this year in March, because we're starting late, I'll probably be in bed by 8:15 or 8:30. That usually shocks people when they hear that, because I need, especially if I'm going to lose weight before the season starts, I got to get proper rest. We get up at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning.
I was going to say Tanya's been a good influence on you.
Tanya's been an amazing influence on me, right? And
I got you, Tanya. We're making sure to shower you in praise and compliments you deserve.
She still terrifies me, though.
Big guy, I was trying to help you out, man.
It's because she's so sweet, but anyway.
Yeah, let's let that one go.
Yeah, Nick, cut that out, Nick. So how has it changed? I mean, it's not an act. First of all, it's real life, and when I'm out now, Tanya's usually with me because I want to be with her, right? Lindsay before COVID, I love the fact that Lindsay lives in Richmond. I love, my kids are my pals now, and you know that as well as anybody. I love going out and having some drinks with my kids or dinner with my kids, and they bring it too, right? And so when we all roll in, thank God Tanya's the adult in the room because she makes sure she takes care of everybody.
They inherited those Parnell genes.
Yes,
There's no doubt about it.
They're awesome, and they have a good time in life, and I'm proud of that, man. Like I'm proud that Lindsay's friends at VCU used to say after they met me, they'll go, well, now I know where it comes from, and I'm proud of that. Like, I'm proud of the fact that the kids are known, for having fun and having a good time. And they're also daggone good at their job. And Anthony, you and this podcast have now turned me into Bobby Bowden. Instead of saying the words I would normally say, I'm saying daggone and daggum. But anyway, that's how I feel about that.
Well, I'm glad that we can keep this one PG rated, and we don't have to put the explicit content because that would limit some of our listenership, big guy. So appreciate you playing along.
Yes.
With that one. So when you are out and about, like, is there any pressure at times to like be Parney? I mean, I feel like we touched upon that a little bit in episode 1, but I feel like now at this juncture, people have kind of come up with this expectation of what like it's like being Parney, especially after you Parneyized Richmond so well those first couple of seasons. So, is it difficult to turn it on and be the big bubbly gregarious character, or is it when you walk into the room it just comes naturally, just who you are, just what you do?
It's a natural thing. Like it's who I am. The only times that it would be not great is if it affects people that I love. Like let's just say the ballpark controversy years ago. Hopefully we'll be at the conclusion of that soon, but when I first started dating Tanya, that was at the height of that, and people would come to our table and just rip into me and or whatever. And she just would just sit there and kind of have to deal with it. So if it's that, or, the kids are there, and that would be the only time. And sometimes I'm exhausted, but I feed off of people, right? So, by the time I get home, though, I'm ready to put on some Squirrels gym shorts and sit on the couch with Madison and watch Walker, Texas Ranger, or Magnum PI, not the new one, the old one, because the new one's terrible. The old one's great. Or Andy Griffith. Maddie and I like to sit with the dog and watch old TV shows, and I'm very quiet then, but I'm still Parney to them. So no, I love it. I love it. It's not always easy, but I love it.
So looking back on it, thinking back to that guy who kind of started building that Parney persona back in Reading, are you a little bit surprised, or could you believe that it would be at the level that it's at now?
I never thought I would probably work in baseball 33 years, honestly. So for that's part of surprise. And yeah, and here in Richmond, sometimes I like turn to Tanya. I'm like, how do they recognize me? How do they know me? I just, for someone who people would probably accuse of being really egotistical or full of himself, I'm actually fairly unassuming. Like, especially when I meet other people. Like, give you an example. When I met Jimmy Livin, the first 7 times I met him, I would shake his hand back when we could still shake hands, and I would say, hey Jim, hey Jimmy, hey Skip, whatever I was calling him that day. I'm Parnell. And about the 4th time, he goes, are you going to introduce yourself to me every single time we meet? Because I know who you are. I'm like, what do you mean you know who I am? No, I know you. You work in Altoona, blah, 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 blah. So I'm always unassuming. I never assume that people know who I am. I never do. And even on the streets, I just don't. So yeah, in that regard, and there's some moments when it's really funny. Like last Friday, Tanya was driving down the street, and she sent me a picture of a couple in front of her that had a Squirrels bumper sticker. Like, that's how crazy we are in our family, right?
I'm always amazed by how many Squirrels bumper stickers and stuff I see out, by the way.
So she gets to the stoplight, and Tanya rolls her window down and says, you love the Squirrels? And the couple rolled their window down, and they're like, yeah, we love the Squirrels. And she said, I'm Parney's girlfriend. And they said, oh, we love Parney. Parney's the best. I follow him on Twitter. She took a picture of the couple and sent it to me. Like, at a stoplight. I'm like, what in the world are you doing? But that's what, like, I love Richmond, Virginia so much for that. And Richmond is it's just a special place. And they've always made me and my kids feel like this is, this is just a special place to us. So yeah, I guess the answer to your question, that's a really long-winded way of saying, yeah, I'm surprised. And but I'm grateful for it. I'm surprised, but I'm grateful for it.
At Tweet Parney on Twitter, all one word, Tweet Parney on Twitter. And certainly we would love to have some folks interact with us here through our social media channels. So at Tweet Parney.
I'd like to get more followers.
Yeah, we'll work on that. By the way, big guy, you talk about building that brand. Maybe some people would be surprised to know that when you first got on Twitter, I think it was back in 2011, you didn't run your own Twitter.
No.
And it's probably good for the brand, right?
No, that would not have been a good time for me to run anything.
Except the baseball team.
Yeah, I was doing that. Mike Murphy, Murph, he was an intern. He was my personal intern, actually. Yep. And when he was at the Center for Sports Leadership. And now he's the general manager of our team in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a great story, and just so proud of him and love him so much. But yeah, back in those days, people said, so Murph, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm Parney's personal intern, so I go to the store and I get him dip, and I make sure that his beer cooler's full at the end of the night, and I run his Twitter.
But now you run your own Twitter.
Yeah, but now I do, and I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
It keeps me connected to a lot of people in baseball. There's other people that are lifers like me, that are on Twitter a lot. Marty Cordero comes to mind, and there's a bunch of other ones. And so it just kind of keeps me, JJ Gotch, who's really close to me. It kind of keeps me up with them without, picking up the phone and taking 30 minutes. I don't mean that to sound mean, but I get this to keep up with people's daily lives, or people are up, they're down, they had a rain out, they had a season canceled, like whatever it is, it enables me to know it. And then it's also a good way to show appreciation to people too. And that's another way that I like using it. And just sometimes for me, I had somebody saying to me yesterday, "Hey, you've been following a lot of my tweets or liking a lot of my tweets. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me." And so it's been fun. I actually enjoy it. I don't like it when people are mean on Twitter. So sometimes I have to take breaks, because sometimes people just get, not towards me necessarily, but I don't like mean, in any form. I just don't like mean, because again, we're only going to be here for 70 years or so, 75, 80, however long you live. And a day being mean is like a wasted day, So, and trust me, I feel like we won't dive down this rabbit hole, but there's been a whole lot of meanness in the world for a little while. And hopefully we're transitioning into more love and kindness. And, that's, I like seeing more of that on Twitter. Social media, though, can be pretty nasty.
Well, I mean, that's the Parney brand, right? It's fun. It's, being jovial. It's, being accepting of people and welcoming of everyone. Hey, you brought up Murph and Montgomery. We talked about on episode 2 with the pants. What did they think of the pants? What did they think of when you rolled into Alabama and said, "Hey, I'm Parney"? What were some of the reactions you got down there in Montgomery?
Again, like Ducky Turner, it was Barney. Barney, your name's Barney. So then I get to use my whole purple dinosaur thing again. It's fun. It's a whole thing. But they like it. Like I remember Charlie Jenright, who's become a close friend down there. He's the president of city council in Montgomery. He gets this big grin. He's a Southern gentleman, like gray hair, and like, he's only got one name, Parney. Ain't that great? Ain't that just so great? It just makes me smile. It just makes me smile. And so we've had a lot of fun with it down there, and I had a great time a couple summers ago. Sammy actually worked with us, and one of the things I'm most proud of is when people say, "Oh, you're Parney's daughter," to any of the kids. That's something that I really love, and I really get a lot of joy out of.
Well, big guy, you definitely have been
there, Anthony.
just processing all of this. I think I'm still stuck on you shirtless on the bar at Cha-Cha's at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, I've been trying to power through the episode, but it's going to keep coming back to that. So
you have to ask Jack Louderback about it.
Well, I maybe, I don't know. I don't. Unfortunately, the cell phone technology wasn't as good back then as it is now, because that
would have been trouble.
It
was Tom White's fault, though.
Yeah, well, we've come a long way, though, big guy. Yeah. And Parney has come a long way. The brand of Parney has come a long way, and it's like we talked about this whole thing. I mean, to me, that's one of the things that has been most fascinating to watch, and I've been fortunate enough to have a front row seat to this evolution of Parney and who you are and what that stands for and how you go about doing your job. And I guess I kind of want to finish this episode similar to the way we finished the previous one, but for those young executives who are trying to make their mark and trying to, maybe figure out who they are. What advice would you give them about going through that process? I mean, I know the last time you said be yourself, but what if you're trying to figure out like who you are and how you go about that?
I mean, that's a great question. I think the one thing that maybe sometimes I struggle with in being Parney is it's still about the work. I mean, it ain't all fun and games, right? Like, you're right down the hall. You see the work that I put into this, and I've worked at that we together put into this. And so I think I'll reiterate, even if you have a brand, and your brand is something like Parney, your brand is something like the pants, or a combination of those like it is for us, it's still about the work. It's still about the work, and you still have to do the work. The process has to be pure. The preparation has to be pure. It's still about the work, but the work can be fun, and at the end of the day, as you're a young executive coming up, if you care and you really, truly care about people, the work you're doing, and the mixture thereof, you're going to be fine. It's all going to work out. A lot of times people want to be, they want the paycheck. They want the glory. But what they don't understand is that paycheck comes with a price, and that glory comes with a price. So you got to be willing to pay the price. And the price is just hard work. And I've never, my dad worked his rear end off his whole life, and he's still, he's 83 years old now. And he still has the desire to work really hard, things that he does. That work ethic, in our family, we call it the Parnell work ethic, actually. That work ethic is just so important to any kind of brand. A brand without work, a brand without a work ethic is a hollow brand. I sounded pretty intellectual there, I feel like.
That was very deep, yeah, very philosophical. I think it came from...
I kind of want to smoke a pipe or a cigar right now. Anybody got any scotch?
Yes, next door, actually. That's where we're headed to next. All right, so I did lie to you. I do have one more, and this is this may be a little bit of borderline hard-hitting question. Do you ever worry that the Parney brand overshadows people that you work with?
100%. 100%. Worry about it all the time. And sorry I cut you off there, but that's how strongly I feel about that. Let's take Ben Rothrock, for example. He's our understated, quiet, hardworking, diligent, great, wonderful, trusted friend of mine that has worked next to me for 20-some years now. That bothers me a lot. When Ben and I walk into a room and 3 people yell Parney across the room, I want them to yell Benny too. So yeah, that's something that bothers me to the point where, when appropriate, and you help me with this sometimes, I try to push other people out in front of me. But yeah, that's something, because it's, you don't hear, hopefully, you don't hear me say I and me a lot, because everything that we're talking about as an organization is about we and us. The Parney brand is about we and us. The pants are about we and us. It's all about we and us. And this is just part of it that's chugging down the hill. I always want to make sure that everybody understands, there's a reason I write together on the board all the time, when we used to have a board that I could write on all the time before COVID. But yeah, that's something that bothers me, but I try to work and do my best so that everybody that I'm teammates with, that we are teammates with, gets the credit that they so richly deserve.
And how do you encourage people to maybe not get too lax in like, oh, well, Parney's got it. Like it's big. He's got the big show. He'll go out there and, Parney eyes. And how do you, get other people to kind of not necessarily follow along, because everybody's got their own thing, but like to not be shy of like stepping out in front too?
Well, I mean, sometimes you got to push them out.
Yeah.
It's how some of us learn how to ride a bike. Your dad took you to the top of the hill and said, "Good luck."
Is that how you learned how to ride a bike?
I think that was. I know it's how Lindsay. I know it was how Lindsay learned how to ride a bike.
And there's some pretty mean hills in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But it wasn't me that did it. It was Bobby Blues that pushed you down the hill. But that's a whole other story. But I think in episode 1 we talked about like being a leader of a business is a lot like, it's like being a coach. Some people you need to hug. Some people you need to kick in the rear end. Mm-hmm. I think the same was with that. Like there's like Ben Rothrock 8-10 years ago would have been terrified of an interview. of a TV interview. I think you would agree with me. He would have been really nervous to be in front of a camera,
which is always so hard for me to believe, because like behind the scenes, Benny is such a gregarious character, and especially his first years, like he was one of the people who was the life of the party.
Right. But now I take a lot of great pride when he stands up in front of a crowd, or when he's really getting into that, and I want that. That's why I talk about being on the back nine of my career, because I want other people to step up. I want other people to do certain things, and a part of the answer to your question is ask people to have solutions. Like when people come into Parney's pub with problems, I want them to have 3 solutions that we can figure out, what that is. And that's all part of growth too, so that someday when they are in charge, someday when they're the boss, they'll have had practice sessions. That's why I encourage young kids, go in every interview you can. Even if you don't think you want the job, go. It's like a practice rep, It's like doing a practice rep. So doing all that those are all things that I think are really important. Getting people to I can't believe we've been on 3 episodes. I'm just saying this for the first time. To get in your uncomfort zone. Like that's a Parneyism. Like get in your uncomfort zone. If you're comfortable, comfort has never met growth. Uncomfortableness meets growth. That was pretty damn deep, wasn't it?
You're doing it, big guy. I don't want that though to overshadow what you said about coming with solutions. I think I've always felt like that is such a. I learned that early on too, in our time together. That was something that was really important to you. Was don't come to me with a problem. Come with some solutions. Yeah. Like yes, we can state what the problem is, but let's talk through the solutions, not just talk through the problems and say, hey, well, what do you want me to do? Like. I do think that is important, and that is part of that process of becoming a leader.
100%. Are you going to teach me how to fish? You're just going to give me fish all the time. I want to teach you how to fish. I want people to learn how to fish so that we can all fish together, and I think that's important. Like, it's a fun part of the job for me, especially now after all these years, to see the growth in people, like yourself and, Murph and BP. Like BP said something to me on the phone the other day, and I just almost started crying because it was like such a pattern of growth for him. And, as I get older, that's where the sheer joy of this job comes in, watching the growth of others. It's not in anything that I do at all. It's just watching the sheer growth of others that I'm around, that we're around, that we're teammates with. That's what I love.
And I love that that's where we got to with this, because I think that's such a great place to end it in terms of like coming full circle of becoming Parney. And I think that absolutely 100% encapsulate kind of what Parney is now, like what this brand of Parney is now. It is, offering those opportunities to others and encouraging that growth. So another great conversation, big guy. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, except for the part about...
This was our Earnhart episode.
It was the Earnhardt episode, except for the part about you being shirtless on a bar at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon in downtown Richmond. Gosh,
I'm sure I was probably asleep by 8.
I'm going to have to do... Yeah, I think that night... I hope so. I hope so. There was nowhere to go but down at that point. You reached your height.
As there is with this podcast, there's nowhere to go but down.
So hopefully after episode 3, we've got more coming up. But big guy, enjoyed it as always. Appreciate it. And until next time, everyone, have fun.
Go nuts. Have fun, go nuts.